will you point? Will you tell me? I'm gonna kind of slowly step up. Will you tell me where you can just barely see me in the frame? Okay. About here. A little bit. I can see your hand. About here. Yeah. All right. Never mind. Good. Is this what you brought? You want it? But my sister, I feel like I didn't know. Yeah. Maybe not as delicious as it could be. This one is like coconut one. She's like this one's gonna try. This one's like extra good. Is it? Yeah. Okay, I'll try it. Thank you. I've done like 5 times. But now I'm gonna do like that makes it really good. Because I've never seen it. So I don't know. Maybe I would like what it's looking. It looks like the sweet spot will just be between those two. Oh, right here. Yep. Okay, thank you. Yeah, because you can just barely see overhead. The closer you got to it. Did you get it like free? I am excited.
Hey guys, before we start the class, I have just a quick announcement. For those of you that can come at 5 p.m. tonight, we have our Entrepreneurship Club meeting. If you don't know where the Entrepreneurship Center is, it's just down the hallway, opposite hallway from this one. The very last door on the right, business 115. Special permission from Provost to have John McLaughlin come and speak to us. It's going to be on Zoom, and also, I need to mention that for student credit. There's a lot of different events, student credit, this class be a great opportunity, and also the last event that we'll have. Last event and last meeting. So, it'll be at 5 p.m. again. I didn't mention, but he has his own company called Guard Site. If you want to go ahead and research a little bit about it, please on that document. The cybersecurity company. He's also come to us. We're excited to have him. He's come at 5 p.m.
All right, thanks everybody for being here. Our guest today is Brittany Westover. Brittany is a market executive at Chase Bank, where she does commercial banking. She is in a particular space in commercial banking where she provides financial solutions for businesses that are generating in revenue between $20 and $500 million in annual revenue. Her current position at Chase is, by my count, her 6th different position at Chase Bank, which goes back 21 and a half years. And so if you're looking at her and doing some math, she started at 5 years old at Chase.
Not quite true.
Slight exaggeration. She's done in addition to her current position, she is the chair of the board of directors for the Women's Business Center. She's on the board of directors for the Sandy Area Chamber of Commerce. She is on the Women in Banking Committee. She got her start at Westminster University. We are very pleased to have with us at Southern Utah today, Brittany Westover.
Thank you so much, Tyler, and excited to chat with you all today. I apologize that it's via Zoom. This is the new world that we're living in. And I've actually been in my home office now for almost since March 16th is when JP Morgan Chase decided to move to our home office in the commercial bank. And we had anticipated going back to the office in September, and that didn't end up working out. And so we're still in kind of this home office space. So are you all still able to see my screen share with the presentation?
No.
No. Okay, let me share screen again. Not sure why it kicked me out, but.
Okay, good.
You're good? Okay, perfect. All right, so yeah, as Tyler mentioned, Brittany Westover, I'm the Utah Commercial Bank Market Executive. I moved into this position in February of this year, which you'll see, I have a little bit of a career chart later on in the presentation. But also, as you mentioned, I have been with JP Morgan Chase or its predecessor banks for almost 22 years. So a very long time. And I am older than I probably look, especially via Zoom. But I did start my banking career my senior year of high school. So that gives you an idea of my actual age. Started in 1998. And you'll be able to kind of share my journey today. And again, I'm excited to answer questions and just share a little bit about what that looks like. So here's a little bit about me. So I have a big family, which you can see from the picture behind me, blended family. So my husband has 4 children. I have 3. Mine range from 10 to 16, and my husband's are 18 to 24. We have 3 in college at UVU. So and our oldest is actually graduating from the business with a business degree from UVU right now. So it's been fun to watch him develop. He actually just got a position at Fidelity. And I also just added a son-in-law to our family in February. So our daughter ended up getting married last month, or I guess, or not February, September. A little bit more about me, 22 years in banking. As mentioned, I'm a Westminster College grad. Some of my hobbies, and I threw some pictures on these first few slides, so you can just see I'm a really active person. Golf, wakeboarding, boating, skiing, anything outdoor. I love, I do a lot of cooking, obviously with a big family. Very involved in the community, the Women's Business Center, Salt Lake Chamber, and Junior Achievement, Women in Banking. Just definitely feel like community involvement is really critical. Even when you don't have time for it, you've got to give back. I love to travel. A couple of other things about me, I CrossFit or run like 7 days a week. And my personal motto, so I actually have a sign in my kitchen that is, the days are long, but the years are short. And I truly believe that. So I'm all about kind of soaking up each moment. And then finally, I have a Yorkie named Cooper, who I adore, love taking him. And it's been kind of a joy working from home because I try to take him for a walk at some point during the day just to clear my mind. So that's just a little bit about me. So start with a quote here. So always go with the choice that scares you most, because that's the one that's going to help you grow. And this is something that, I think in my career in banking is you'll hear from me. Not a lot of bankers move lines of business and move around as much as I have. And I've had a lot of opportunities to jump into some different positions that have been a little bit scary at times. When you don't know exactly what you're doing and you don't have that knowledge jumping in, but you're kind of using your history just to go forward. And it's been a great ride. And I, highly encourage you all in your careers, whether that be, the entrepreneurial route, or with a company, that you always are looking for that choice that helps you grow. So what do you imagine when someone tells you that they work at a bank? And I put on here something like this. So most people imagine kind of a branch-based banking, right? Where you go, you interact with tellers, you may sit down, open an account, and have interactions that way. And a little bit about what that part of the banking group is the consumer and community banking. And it's a small part of what kind of the global banking system really is. So there's the consumer banking, there's the business bank, kind of our wealth management, card services, our auto group, and then home lending all kind of fall in that part of the bank group. And this next slide kind of gives you a visual here. So all of that is over here in kind of our retail and our mortgage banking group. So you can see it's like a very small part of kind of our overall banking group. And that's what most people think of when they think of a career in banking. They think, oh, okay, I'm going to be helping people open accounts, helping people, maybe provide a mortgage for them, or, do some financial investing for them, right? More on the consumer side, maybe small business, interacting with some small business owners. And all of that is absolutely critical and makes up, a good portion of banking. But as you can see, there's also a lot of other opportunities in a career in banking. So I sit right now in this commercial banking group. It's our middle market banking and specialized industries. And I'll give the next slide a little bit more information about that. And then we also have our corporate and investment banking. So when you think about corporate investment banking, those would be working with clients like the Walmarts of the world, right? The Targets. These are going to be very large, Amazon, other companies like that. And then you've got our asset management team that works with like global wealth management, very large balance clients, both on the personal side as well as the business side, because as you can imagine, corporations need to invest funds as well. So it's a little bit about, kind of how things are structurally made up. Just a little bit about the company that I've worked for now in some capacity for 22 years. It's a top 50 company on Fortune's World's Most Admired Companies. And one of the things I'm really proud of is 50% of the operating committee is female. And this is something that JP Morgan Chase has really put a big focus on, is continuing to have diversity, and both in gender and race throughout our organization. We're also the number one credit card provider in the US. And then one of the things that I really love about our company is that what we give back to the community. So you can see there, that's $1.75 billion contributed back to inclusive growth in our communities worldwide. And so we definitely do a lot for our communities. You can see some of the other stats there. It talks a little bit about our branch network. And then our incredible CEO and chairman, Jamie Dimon. If you haven't ever read anything about him, I'd highly encourage you to do a little research. He's an incredible leader and has a high ethical standard, which is absolutely critical when you're in the banking industry. So just a little bit about my career path. You can start in that bottom right-hand corner. You can see I started in 1998. I was a senior in high school. I started as a bank teller and was very fortunate that I had the manager that had kind of come through the branch I was working at noticed me and just saw like a real potential, promoted me quickly to kind of a personal banker position. That's who you interact with when you open accounts, do maybe like a home equity line, auto loan. And then I continued to grow into the assistant manager role and then into the branch manager role over a relatively short period of time. And I did all of that while also going to college. So I graduated with my degree in 2002 from Westminster. And so I did a lot of classes at night and Saturday mornings and worked full time in between. I started as a branch manager for Washington Mutual Bank in 2003. And then I left to move to Bank One in 2004, also as a branch manager at a location, nearby the downtown office. And so I moved over. And then the interesting thing was right after I moved to Bank One, they merged with JP Morgan Chase. So shortly after, the firm Bank One became JP Morgan Chase. I was very fortunate also at JP Morgan Chase. We had a lot of growth opportunities, being that we went through that merger, the acquisition, and I had some great mentors that worked with me, and I became a district manager at a very young age. I think I was all of 24 years old, which is relatively young when you're considering that I was running 17 branches with 17 branch managers reporting to me. And over the course of about a 4-year period, I moved into a market manager position, which grew from managing branch managers to actually having 7 district managers that reported up to me, and 110 branches throughout Utah, Nevada, Idaho, and Washington. And I'll certainly share some of my learnings along the way, but each step that I took here took a lot of self-reflection, a lot of work, dedication, and performance, right? Performance is really key to continue to grow that corporate ladder as well. In 2010, if you remember, this is when we kind of went through the financial crisis, and it was a little before that, right? But as a part of that, JP Morgan Chase picked up Washington Mutual as part of our network. And because of my experience with Washington Mutual, I was tapped to run a national program. So I was the national market support manager, and I ran the branch manager and assistant manager training program globally. So I traveled throughout the United States. I developed program content. I put together, worked a lot with hiring. One of the things I really enjoyed, with it being Veterans Day tomorrow, I actually developed a pilot program where we were able to pull in military veterans with like officer level rank and train them to become branch managers. And so it was a really fun program and really rewarding time in my career. And then as I continued to travel a lot, I had a young family, and had some challenges personally that happened during that time. Went through a divorce, and made the decision I didn't want to be traveling nationally as much. And so I looked at, kind of what my opportunity was within the Utah market. And in 2014, I moved back over to our business bank, and then into the commercial banker role, where I sit today. And it's really been my home. This is where I found myself. I definitely will find myself, I think, fulfilling the rest of my career. In this group, we work with companies between $20 million and about $1 billion annually. My largest client that I personally manage has a $2 billion revenue per year, generates $2 billion in revenue per year. And it's really fun to work with these companies. And I'll certainly, dial in a little bit on that in a little bit here. Sorry, I think it times me out my screen share. So that's a little bit about my role. And then, like I said, most recently in February, I moved to the Utah market executive position. And my role there, I have a team of 8 bankers that work on my team. And I still manage a handful of very kind of top-notch clients myself. Let's see. So commercial banking, as I mentioned, it works with typically companies 20 million in revenue up to 500 million in revenue. It sits between kind of our business bank and then our corporate bank. And a little bit about what a commercial banker does. So we provide credit services. So this would be like working capital, revolving credit. My biggest facility that I've put in place for a company is $125 million. And it has a $200 million, what's called an accordion feature, meaning that as they continue to grow, they're able to kind of tap into that additional capital. There's 4 banks that are in that deal. So it's called a syndicated deal, where we work to hold a portion of that credit facility. And then we have other lenders that also hold a portion of that credit facility. We also provide real estate and equipment loans. ESOP lending is for employee stock ownership companies. So that would be like the largest one that's well known as Winco. if you've ever, shopped at Winco, that's an employee-owned company. And meaning that each person that works there, the longer you work there, the more stock that you grow in the company. So it's part of your retirement plan. We also do M&A financing, so merger and acquisition financing, all sorts of treasury services. So you can imagine, what you do personally, corporations need to do as well, right? So they need to get paid, make payments. They need to, spend on a credit card. They need to accept money through merchant services. So all of those things we work with our clients with. So liquidity management, disbursement services, international banking. So we have 70 countries that we have in-person bankers that we work with our clients in setting up in-country bank accounts. Strategic services would be more like looking at maybe debt capacity. What can a corporate client actually extend in debt so that they can continue to kind of grow their business? Investment banking, and then asset management, and that would be, again, going back to like retirement plan services, or if corporations have excess cash, they also need places to invest that. So those are some of those strategies. So I'll talk a little bit about why I found my place in kind of this commercial bank where I've been now for over 6 years. The reason I would say is it really hits kind of these 4 buckets, right? And as you're seeking to kind of enter into your career and looking at what's going to be your path, I think that these are 4 buckets to kind of be like contemplating. And if you can find balance with all 4, then I feel like that's where you've kind of met your match, right? And so what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. And if you can kind of hit all of those marks, then that's going to be a really comfortable place and a really fun place for you. So this slide just kind of talks a little bit about defining your why. What are you passionate about? What are you knowledgeable about? And what impact do you want to leave? And as I touch on, why I love what I do each and every day, I love interacting with business owners in various roles and seeing what different corporations do. I've had so many fun tours of facilities, how socks are made, and machine companies that are making parts for Boeing airplanes, and all sorts of really unique opportunities there. I also love to lead, and so now that I'm managing a team of bankers, that really fulfills that people development. Going to kind of what the world needs for me, JP Morgan Chase is a company that gives back to the community. We're very vested in environmental, friendly initiatives, and also, doing a lot internally that I think, supports that. And then they definitely encourage community involvement. And I've, had an opportunity to serve on a number of boards and really appreciate kind of giving back. And then, getting paid each and every day. I get paid for what I do. And banking is a great career. It's very stable, provides great benefits. And so I definitely appreciate that. Another thing I just mentioned a little bit about, why I love where I work. So lots of initiatives on, women on the move, advancing Black pathways, veteran jobs mission. We are all about, diversity and inclusion, and it's not just, it's shown through our leadership each and every day. And so I really appreciate that about my company. Some stats that I would say, I'm definitely not the norm. If you look at the average person will change careers 5 to 7 times during their work life. And I thought this was a really interesting statistic. With ever increasing numbers of career choices, 30% of the workforce will now change careers or jobs every 12 months. So it's just a really interesting, stat that you can see there. And so, and there's some additional, kind of quotes there on the left-hand side. Certainly not saying that you need to kind of stay put where you're at. You're going to change careers, you're going to change, and generate ideas. my husband's a great example of this. So my husband was a school principal for 20 years. And about, it's probably been 6-7 years ago, decided to make a career change and went into a business for himself. He's been doing some consulting and some other things, and has worked really, really hard in launching his business. And so it's never too late to make that change. But just definitely something to be thinking about, you know, as you kind of start shaping your future. So I'm also going to just provide, because this is an example of me of, you know, you can have a lot of change within a company. And this is just 10 reasons to stay with a company for 10 plus years. And I've definitely seen this take place for me in my career. So seniority, right? So as you continue to have more tenure with the company, you're going to have seniority in a lot of different ways. It'll come, you know, with meetings, the knowledge that you have, the historical knowledge, and even little things like, you know, when we revamp like desk space or that type of thing, a lot of times they'll look at, okay, well, who has the most tenure and that type of thing. Leadership opportunities, the longer that you've kind of made your mark somewhere, the more that they know you. Stability, right? So the longer you're with a company, the more, you know, stable that paycheck becomes. You'll also continue to see usually kind of those raises come. And so it provides some nice stability there. Oh, and so I don't know why it keeps kicking me out here. Home ownership, retirement funds, increased benefits. So that would be, you know, like vacation time, you know, self-improvement. You definitely, the longer that I think you're in a position, the more time that you're able to kind of give back to yourself. And, you know, because you get to know your job, you get to know your players, and continue to help yourself improve. You know, dependability, flexibility. And then I love this one, is stay in the company's future, right? And so just a few benefits of actually staying with a company for longer than 10 years. There we go. I want to talk a little bit, I mentioned in kind of my career path, a little bit about a mentor. So a mentor empowers a person to see a possible future and believe it can be obtained. And this was absolutely true for me. I've had a number of mentors along the way. And one of those very first ones was when I was very young. I was a branch manager for just a couple of years, maybe 3 years, and I had performed very well. I was a top 10 in the country producer all 3 years, right? And so, you know, I felt really good about my individual results, but I had my first mentor was the market executive for Utah at the time. And he sat me down and said, look, I see greater potential for you. What would you think about applying for this open district manager position that we had? And I'll be honest, it had never even crossed my mind. It was something that I thought I would need to have a lot more tenure to put my, you know, hat in that ring. And so I just really appreciated the fact that he brought that possibility even into my mind. I applied, interviewed, and it was a very competitive interview process. And I came out on top, and it really did change the trajectory for me. So I would highly encourage, you know, along your career to have multiple mentors. And I can think of many mentors that I've had throughout my career, and I'll share a couple of examples of things that they shared with me. But I feel like they provide knowledge. They obviously help you improve, you know, give great advice. One thing I really would highly encourage is they broaden that professional network. And so, you know, don't be afraid as you continue to get to know people that are impactful in your life, both professionally and personally, to ask them for introductions. It's something that I've grown more and more comfortable with throughout the years in asking for those introductions. Hey, do you know someone that, like, specifically in my world right now, you know, CPA office or a attorney that maybe specifically works with like M&A activity. Or maybe I'm looking for a really strong, you know, banking candidate, right? And so asking for those referrals from your mentors can be really helpful. They provide you an encouragement, and then obviously learning from their experience. I can't tell you how many times I've called one of my mentors and said, hey, I have a really challenging situation with an employee or with a deal, or, you know, I'm trying to make a decision with my career. Can I just talk through this with you? and they can provide some great feedback. This is one of the very first pieces of advice that I received from a mentor of mine. And I've literally kept this. I think I received this maybe in like 1999, 2000, and it still hasn't changed. It's called the accountability bar, and my children hate it, but also love it because I think it's such a logical tool, right? And he would always talk about, being above the bar is what he would say. And being above the bar is, making it happen, finding solutions, embracing it, and acknowledging reality. So we're all going to be thrown challenges in our career, in our lives, and we can either acknowledge that reality, embrace it, find solutions, and then move forward and make something happen. Or we can wait and hope, say I can't, make excuses, blame others, right? And so I throw this in there because it's something that really, I think, helped shape my career. Anytime there's a situation that comes about, I try to always stay above the line, acknowledging, okay, what is this really situation? I'm going to embrace it, and then I'm looking for solutions to move things forward. Okay, so the next thing that I had some great advice on was communication, and I thought I would do something kind of fun here. So this quote I think is really great. It's listen with curiosity, speak with honesty, act with integrity. The greatest problem with communication is we don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. When we listen with curiosity, we don't listen with the intent to reply. We listen for what's behind the words. And I feel like this is absolutely critical, whoever you're dealing with, whether it's, teammates, your boss, your manager, if your employees, clients, listening is such a critical skill. So I'm going to go through a little exercise with you guys. You can just write it down on a piece of paper. And so what I'm going to do is I want you to try to remember as many words as possible. And I guess don't write them down. Just listen and see how many you can actually remember at the end of this exercise, and you can write down how many you actually remember. So I'm going to say some words, and again, I just want you to see how many you remember at the end of this exercise. So pillow, comforter, bed, sheets, dream, restless, alarm clock, calm, sheets, teddy bear, rest, sleep, cozy, snore, sheets, comfort. Okay. I guess it's a little hard with the Zoom setting, but can anyone tell me what the first thing I said was?
Louder.
Pillow. Okay. Yep. Okay. That was good. What about the second? Okay. What about the third? Okay. Can anyone tell me what word I used 3 times? Louder. Sheets. Okay, good. What was the last word that I used? Comfort. Yep, good. Good. So the reason I share this is, and it's a little easier in person with that exercise, but I think this is just interesting statistics. So 60% of people will remember the first thing that you said. So you guys noticed it was much louder in the room, right? With pillow, right? And then it kind of declined as I asked like subsequent words. 75% of people will remember the last word you said. And that was also true. You guys were pretty loud about that, right? And then 85%, and I think this was the loudest in the room, will remember things that are said multiple times throughout the conversation. This is something that I talk about with my team quite a bit as we're interacting with our clients and our prospective clients, and even as a team, is thinking about as you present to people or as you speak to people, think about these 3 things, right? The first thing that you say is very important. The last thing that you say is very important. And if you want to make a point, making it multiple times is going to leave the biggest impression for people. So I just think it's a helpful exercise, as communication is, I think, a critical thing that we all do no matter what your role. So my next slide is a little bit around you know, leader, manager, or boss. And this is where, you know, I kind of sit in my career right now. And you know, I throw out to the group, you know, I mean, have any of you had, you know, or seen a difference so far in your careers or, you know, your work with maybe a leader or a manager or a boss, and kind of what that difference is? So I have on there, you know, effective leaders transcend the title of manager or boss. They have found a way to achieve the right combination of charisma, enthusiasm, self-assurance, probably with a healthy dose of luck and timing. And I definitely agree. Like, I've had some of that in my career, that luck and timing. But I found leadership positions throughout my career, and I often try to like make sure that I'm on that right side of kind of the are you a boss or leader curve. I'm always wanting to learn, and I think that that's really critical as you guys, you know, move into kind of whatever stage you have. Learning is something that you're always going to be doing. And something I often tell my team, my team, there are many of them on my team that are better in certain areas than I am. And I lean on them for that expertise. And I have no problem saying, hey, I don't know. Can you help me with this? Right? Just because you are the manager doesn't mean that you're always the best at something. So, you know, I think listening more than you talk, seeking solutions, encouraging, recognizing those natural gifts, coaching, revealing vulnerability. You know, there's been times in my career where I've had to, you know, really reveal it, like, hey, I made a mistake, or you know, I looked at this incorrectly, right? And those are times for learning. That also is a time for taking responsibility, focusing on the team, and then continuing to inspire performance. So you know, as you look to grow your careers and you become, you know, future leaders, and I hope that you truly kind of fall on that leadership side versus the manager boss. So I have some tips, you know, that I was just kind of thinking about for you as aspiring students and you know, potentially entrepreneurs. You know, be your authentic you. This is something, again, I had to learn really early in my career. It was a little scary at times being, you know, a young individual managing people that were older than myself. But I just came each day with the attitude, like, look, I'm here to help. I'm here to win. You know, and I've always been kind of that authentic self. Take the risk and take action. You know, people will notice if you get out there and work hard and are always trying to do and move things forward. People will notice. Believe in yourself. Be consistent. I think that this is something that's important. You know, be on time for meetings. You show that you care. Find good people around you, and that could be, like I talked about, mentors, leaders, colleagues, and kind of that social network. Channels, social media networking, I think it's becoming ever more critical with LinkedIn, and you guys certainly, I'm sure, have a good handle on that. But that's, I think, a good opportunity just to continue to connect in this world. Do the time. So, you know, sometimes it's easier to jump ship, and I can tell you, I have been approached with multiple opportunities over my career to move to either another financial institution, or I've had a couple of clients that have offered me like COO positions within their firms, and they have been really tempting offers. And I certainly would say, look at those type of opportunities. But the time that I put into my current roles and my current job has really led to some great opportunities as well. Make mistakes. I already mentioned, never stop learning, community engagement. And then this is something that I tell my kids all the time, like, time is your most valuable resource. So use it wisely. You know, that's something that if you learn that early on, I think it's really helpful as you're setting up your day and your balance going forward. So I'll, Tyler, stop there and open it up to questions. I think we're about on the timeline that we had kind of talked about. So certainly open to answering any questions that you have.
Please speak loudly if you have a question. Brittany, I'll start with the question. There's Wells Fargo got in some hot water for some shenanigans, some ethical shenanigans.
Yep.
Is that something that could happen at Chase, and why or why not?
So I would say, I mean, could anything happen anywhere? Sure, but I would tell you that Chase is very careful about we call it our code of conduct. And it's one of the reasons I'm really proud to work for the organization that I work with, is from the top down, we have like very high sense of integrity. And I can say in all of my career, anytime there's an employee that has crossed a line in any way, shape, or form, it is immediate termination. And, sometimes there's been circumstances where, I've been like, oh my gosh, it was like a $10 fee that they waived, or, in my mind, like you kind of like question, like, wow, that's really harsh, right? To make but it's also very fair. It's like very black and white. You cross this line, it doesn't matter if it's $10, you will be terminated. And so I guess in answering your question, I think that organizations that from the top down set that high bar of integrity, ethics, and just really making sure that that message of this is what's appropriate and this is what's not appropriate is heard loud and clear. I think that helps a lot, right? Now, we still have humans that work at any place, right? And so people are going to make mistakes. The hope is that those mistakes are not done in an unethical way, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And I guess one more thing I'd say with that, Tyler, is culturally, I think that that's embedded at JP Morgan Chase, and I've hired employees from other financial institutions, and culturally that's not always embedded. So culture is also, I think, a really important thing. As you're picking where you decide to put your 2 feet, culture is a very important part of making that decision.
Thank you.
What's something you have found you're able to do more effectively with how your company's gone more online with COVID?
More effectively with like being like on the work from home? Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, so for me, I had like a 45-minute commute in the morning and in the evening previously. And so I feel like I have more productivity time. And it's something that, I've talked to my team. I think even when we go back to the office, I think that we'll probably continue to allow at least my employees to work a couple of days from home just to save time on that commute. I've also been able to hold more meetings with like our clients or prospects. So you can imagine if I've got a client up in like Logan, Utah, I mean, that's a 2+ hour drive for me there and then also back, right? And so the productivity of like getting there, having that meeting, and then coming all the way back, I can't have as many meetings. And so that's been really helpful. I think I've been more in touch with our clients and our prospective clients than usual. So I think that's been a real bonus. And then also the connectivity with our clients has also been where they're able to pull in parties that maybe are in different parts of the country of their organization to join some of those meetings. That's been really, really beneficial. So I think those are all, real positives. On the flip side, I do miss some of those in-person interactions. I think in-person just goes a long way. I miss touring like facilities. So when you go and visit with, a business, it's really neat to actually do, a facility tour and see how things work and actually see the equipment that they're using and their needs. And I feel like that's something that we've really missed out on in the last 9 months.
at what point did you realize that Chase was your career, and what kind of made you make that decision?
Yeah, so I think a real crossroads for me for my career with like staying on with Chase was when I think it was around probably like 2013, 2014-ish timeframe, when I moved into the commercial bank. So at that time, I had an opportunity with a client that I had been working with to run a really large real estate organization as the chief operating officer for his company. And it was a really great offer. And I contemplated it quite a bit and was pretty far down the interview process and working, with him. And it really came back to, the time that I had invested with Chase, like some of these things that I had already mentioned, just the fit for me in kind of that, who the company was and how that fit with me personally. Some of it's the stability, right? So I'm the breadwinner for my family, and knowing that I have, a steady salary and benefits for, healthcare and all of that, that played in heavily for the opportunity. And then the upside of, when I looked at the commercial bank group that I was also contemplating an offer for, most of the individuals at that time in that group were in their late 50s, early 60s. So I could see that there might be an opportunity to learn from their experience, and then as they retired, maybe pick up a little bit of their book of clients and maybe even future leadership opportunities. So I waived all that really heavily in making that decision, and it definitely paid off. And maybe the other route would have been also just as equally great, but it was the decision I made, and I've been very happy with it, and just, continue to enjoy working for this company.
Oh, I was just wondering, before you decided that Chase was going to be your career, what were like some of your hopes and dreams of like a young senior in high school?
So going back, sorry, I couldn't hear that question very well.
So just going back to when you decided to stay with Chase, what were some of like your hopes and dreams before that as like a young senior in high school?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as a senior in high school, so I was a business Sterling Scholar at the high school that I graduated from. And so I knew I wanted to go into something with a kind of a business opportunity. And honestly, I mean, I thought about going into more of like a financial analyst type of role, because I really love numbers, and so that was actually that, and then also an attorney. Those were two things that I actually thought about getting my degree in. But as I started, into college and interacting, I realized I really love the people part of business as well. And although both of those professions would allow, some people interaction, it's not as focused on like the sales and the, people development. And so that was some of the things that I kind of thought about. I mean, I'd always been kind of a big dreamer. My grandfather was a veterinarian and owned his own network of clinics and hospitals. So I had worked for him in my like early teens. I had contemplated, becoming a veterinarian and taking over his practices. I'm very allergic to cats, so that kind of killed that dream for me. But I always knew that I wanted to do something, either running my own business or working in the business arena.
Can you think of a time when you use the accountability bar to get through a tough situation or make a tough decision?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think that there's been a few points in like my career where that maybe like came into play. So, specifically thinking of a big, a company that we extended credit for that we probably shouldn't have. They're like, looking back on that situation, it was probably not the right decision. And like, I honestly, at that point, given my kind of my circle in involvement, I could have pointed fingers at some others that were involved in what we call kind of the deal team in that situation. But rather than doing that, I kind of stepped in and said, okay, look, I'm accountable. At the end of the day, you know, this is my client, and took the necessary, you know, measures to get, we have kind of a special credits team involved, took responsibility to kind of pull a team around. And I think by me kind of stepping up that accountability bar and taking action and then trying to find solutions, everyone else also got involved. And the cool thing was, I mean, it took us 14 months to kind of pull out of the situation, but we did not end up taking a loss, which, I mean, the potential for loss was like over $4 million. So it was substantial. And I honestly can remember when all of this kind of like happened, my initial reaction was like, well, this was so-and-so's fault, right? Like that's what I wanted to do naturally. But I literally had to pause and be like, no, I'm going to take accountability. We're going to like work through this. Let's, you know, and it took time. So I'm making it probably sound easier than it was, right? It was 14 months of a lot of work and time and energy and communication with the client, communication with attorneys, but we were able to pull through.
We probably have time for one more question.
How has your journey through the corporate world related to entrepreneurial journey?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
Want me to get closer? Okay. How has your journey through Chase and this company, how does that relate to an entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that I actually wanted to kind of tie in, and this is a good time to do that with my close, is although I've worked with a company that, you know, has a lot of stability, I've also in this journey worked with a ton of entrepreneurs, right? So you can imagine all the companies that I bank are companies that are mostly, you know, family run, or they've been, you know, developed and you know, built from the ground up. So that has been a really fun part of this journey, is actually seeing and working with all of these different entrepreneurs and seeing and like all of their needs. And then the other thing I would tell you about working for corporate America from an entrepreneurial standpoint is in each line of business that I've worked in, although there's some like guardrails, it's like each time you're kind of starting from scratch. You have your own budget, you have your own book of business, and although you're provided some like tools, it's really, you step into each of those opportunities with kind of that entrepreneurial mindset, right? Of like, this is my business, and each and every day I run my business just like a business owner would, right? I mean, I want to grow my revenue. I want to, you know, decrease my expenses and increase my bottom line. I want to grow my share with, you know, my wallet with my customers, and I want to bring on more customers, right? And so, you know, I approach my job as if it's my own business each and every day. I have my team, and I'm just really blessed that I have, you know, a great corporation and a great name behind me. But you can really take that entrepreneurial mindset in any position that you work with, whether it's at a company or whether it's starting your own company.
Brittany, thank you so much. I'm going to just awkwardly put my face in the frame here.
That's great.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that once things have got back to the old normal, that you'll consider visiting us here on campus.
Absolutely.
Applause for Brittany.
Thank you so much for having me. And I've got my contact information up there if you have questions or anything that I can help with.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
did have a question. We have to attend one event for the class. Have to, yeah. It can be a-
I have stairs all on the back.
And then also one. It doesn't.
I'm the only one that I want.
Yeah,
Oh, really? I mean.
yeah, basically, so we do stuff, Russell and Nielsen, like, use the whole color to.
Oh,
Yeah. And then that's the whole town.
Oh, are you doing that already?
Yeah, we're just starting on it.
Do you like Casey?
Yeah, it's cool.
You should offer more.
Oh, okay.